Ever watch someone destroy a relationship, not because of what they did, but because they couldn't admit the truth, even to themselves? That's denial, and it might be closer to your life than you think. Today, we're exploring how denial shows up in love, family, and even friendships, and how to break the cycle. Denial leads to dysfunction, conflict, and emotional distress. I am going to give you some examples. Take romantic relationships, for instance. Example: a partner consistently ignores signs of infidelity. Example: unexplained absences or secretive behavior, because confronting the truth would mean facing the pain of betrayal or the potential end of the relationship. And what's the denial mechanism? They may rationalize their partner's behavior. For example, they're just working late, or blame themselves. For example, I'm not giving them enough attention. This allows them to avoid the discomfort of addressing the issue. And how does this impact your relationship? The denial perpetuates the betrayal, erodes trust, and prolongs emotional suffering for both parties. Let's look at parent-child relationships. For example, a parent refuses to acknowledge that their adult child is struggling with addiction, instead framing the child's behavior as just going through a phase or having fun. And the denial mechanism here is that the parent avoids confronting the reality of addiction because it threatens their self-image as a good parent, or because they fear losing their child. How does it impact all involved? The child's condition worsens due to lack of intervention, and the family dynamic becomes strained by unresolved tension. Let's say in extended family relationships. For example, a person denies that their in-laws are overly controlling or intrusive, convincing themselves that they're just trying to help, or it's cultural. Or a person involves their parents as a first party in their relationship and denies that it has any effect on the other partner who didn't marry them, but married you. Now let's look into the denial mechanism. In the first scenario, they suppress their frustration to maintain harmony or avoid being labeled as difficult, even though the intrusion is causing stress in their marriage. In the second scenario, they rationalize their behavior. For example, they are my parents. It's okay if they know everything about us and always help me make decisions. Or, I'm sure my parents love you. There's no reason not to trust them. And how does this impact everyone? The lack of boundaries leads to ongoing tension between the person and their spouse, as well as growing resentment toward the in-laws. The list goes on and on. I think I should even do another video highlighting how denial and self-deception plays out in different relationship dynamics. In situations where someone enables destructive behavior, such as enabling their parents to sabotage their marriage while remaining blind to their role in the dynamic, or in any of the other examples I have given above, you're dealing with a complex interplay of denial, emotional dependency, and boundary issues. This pattern can be generalized to many other relationships or contexts where someone consistently avoids confronting uncomfortable truths, often at the expense of their own well-being or the health of their relationships. So the real question is, how do you deal with this if you have a spouse, parent, sibling, friend, colleague who is perpetually living in denial of their own reality and self-deception? The first one is recognize the pattern of enabling. What does it mean to enable? Enabling occurs when someone, often out of fear, guilt, or misplaced loyalty, supports or excuses harmful behavior in others. In this case, the person may be prioritizing their relationship with their parents over the health of their marriage, even if the parents' actions are toxic. If you're thinking this only happens in love relationships, think again. Enabling can happen in various contexts, whether it's excusing a friend's irresponsible behavior, tolerating a partner's mistreatment, or ignoring red flags in a work environment. The common thread is that the enabler avoids addressing the problem, either because they fear conflict or because they feel responsible for keeping the peace. This brings us to the second one: understand the root causes. Why do people enable? People enable others out of fear of loss, guilt, or the need to keep the peace. In the example, the person may feel torn between their spouse and their parents, unable to set boundaries due to fear of rejection or abandonment. Let's zoom out for a moment. Enabling behavior often stems from unresolved emotional conflicts, such as fear of confrontation or rejection, guilt over disappointing others, a need for approval or validation, difficulty asserting boundaries due to low self esteem or people pleasing tendencies. Third, you want to identify the impact of denial. How does denial harm the situation? By denying the problem, the person avoids taking responsibility for their role in perpetuating dysfunction. For instance, they may blame their spouse for being too sensitive about their parents' interference rather than acknowledging their own failure to set boundaries. Denial doesn't choose one relationship type, it hides in plain sight across our lives. Denial prevents meaningful change by keeping the person stuck in a cycle of avoidance. This can lead to escalating conflict in key relationships, e.g., marriage, friendships, work; emotional burnout from constantly trying to fix things without addressing the root cause; erosion of trust and respect in the relationship with the affected party, e.g., the spouse. Number 4, approach with compassion, not judgment. Avoid blaming or shaming, telling someone, "You're ruining your marriage by enabling your parents," will likely trigger defensiveness. Instead, frame the issue in terms of their feelings and goals. I know you care deeply about both your parents and your spouse. How do you think you can balance those relationships in a way that feels good for everyone? When addressing enabling or denial, focus on understanding their perspective and helping them see the consequences of their actions without making them feel attacked. Use I statements and empathetic language to avoid triggering resistance. Then, to the fifth one, encourage self reflection. Help them see the bigger picture. Gently guide them to reflect on how their actions or inaction contribute to the problem. For example, have you noticed how your spouse reacts when your parents interfere? Do you think there might be a way to address that? Encourage self awareness by asking open ended questions that prompt critical thinking. For example, what do you think is causing tension in this situation? How do you feel when whatever the problematic behavior happens? What would it look like if things were different? Now, on to the sixth one: address underlying loyalty conflicts. Acknowledge the emotional complexity. In the example, the person may feel torn between loyalty to their parents and commitment to their spouse. These conflicting loyalties can make it difficult for them to take action. This pattern shows up in more places than we often realize. Loyalty conflicts arise in many situations, such as balancing work demands with personal life, navigating friendships versus family obligations, managing expectations from multiple stakeholders in a group setting. To resolve these conflicts, encourage them to prioritize their values and long term goals. Ask, what matters most to you in the long run? How can you honor both sides without sacrificing your own well being? This seventh one is very important because I know how awfully hard it can be to talk to anyone living in self deception about their own reality. Suggest professional support therapy can help break the cycle. If the person is deeply entrenched in denial or enabling behaviors, professional guidance may be necessary. A therapist can help them explore underlying fears, develop healthier coping mechanisms, and learn how to set boundaries. I also know that they may refuse to get professional help because all is fine and well, and maybe you are the one who has a problem with everything and everybody. The eighth one, which is the most important, is to accept what you can't change. This will help your mental health. Recognize your limits. While you can offer support and guidance, you cannot force someone to confront their truth or change their behavior. If they refuse to acknowledge the problem or take responsibility, you may need to protect yourself by setting boundaries or stepping back. Focus on what you can control: your own reactions, communication, and boundaries. And lastly, model healthy behavior. Lead by example. Demonstrate how to set boundaries, communicate openly, and handle conflict constructively. Seeing you navigate similar challenges in a healthy way may inspire them to follow suit. Generalization. Modeling positive behavior is one of the most effective ways to influence others. Whether it's managing family dynamics, resolving workplace conflicts, or navigating friendships, your actions speak louder than words. If you're watching this and thinking, that sounds like me, take a breath. You're not powerless. Start with one small step: set a boundary. Speak a truth. You deserve peace. And if this helped, share it with someone you love or someone who needs to hear it. Like this video, share with someone you love, and subscribe.